117 students. This video is a brief overview of your written correspondence project. The written correspondence project can be found on Blackboard in the written correspondence folder, and you also have it on your USB stick from day one of the semester. This project is broken down into three segments. The first segment is the direct letter promoting goodwill. Second segment is a persuasive letter. And the third segment is a negative message memorandum. The purpose of this video is to go over some of the basic guidelines for the project, how it's graded, and then also talk about that very first component, which is the direct letter promoting goodwill. So the document that you see in front of you are your project guidelines, written correspondence guidelines and grading. If I scroll down here, you'll see how you're graded, 33 points for each segment. I combine those together and come up with one project grade. You are allowed to submit draft copies of your work prior to the due date. I'll be happy to look at them, edit them, and send them back to you. All right, so let's take a look at the very first component, which is the direct letter promoting goodwill. And here's your scenario. I think it's really important to understand how important it is for administrative staff in any medical office to send out really good correspondence, whether it's an email, a letter to a patient or a vendor. It really doesn't matter what the format is, but the attention to detail really helps to avoid any kind of miscommunication between the patient and the medical office or between the vendor and the office. So here's your background. You're a medical assisting student doing your practicum at a podiatry office of Dr. Miller. Many of Dr. Miller's patients are elderly and they have a variety of health issues, including hearing loss and memory loss. Last week, one of Dr. Miller's diabetic patients missed a scheduled appointment, even though a reminder phone call was made and a message was left on the patient's voicemail. So your task is very direct, and this one is actually pretty simple to do. You're going to write a direct letter to Mrs. Ruth Ginsburg. If you don't know who Ruth Ginsburg is, look her up, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's a real person. She's 90 some odd years old. I think it's always great to have a visual of the person that you're writing to. Know who your audience is before you start writing. So you're going to inform her that she missed an appointment. You're going to try and use a pleasant tone and promote goodwill, but also be firm. So that's a tricky business right there. Use today's date in a full block style. I'm giving you Mrs. Ginsburg address to use for the inside address. Use an appropriate greeting and also a subject line. The first paragraph of your letter, you need to have a nice, pleasant conversational tone and assure Mrs. Ginsburg that she's a valued patient at the office. You can mention to her that a courtesy appointment reminder call was left on her voicemail prior to the scheduled appointment. And in the body of the letter, you must tell her when the appointment was, what the date and time was. So I'm going to give you a date right now. We're all going to use the same date, which is Monday, April 7th, 10 a.m. So that was the date and the time of the appointment that she missed. And you have to mention in there that a courtesy phone call was made prior to that appointment. Probably in reality, it would have been made on either Thursday the 2nd or Friday the 3rd. In the body of the letter, describe what type of appointment was missed, meaning it was a routine office visit for a diabetic patient. It was a screening appointment. So those screening appointments are actually really important because they help a podiatrist to see if there's something really going on with their diabetic condition. If you look down at the bottom of the assignment sheet under additional information, there is a lot of information there as far as what podiatrists look for in the feet of their diabetic patients. There's also some information there about diabetic patients having limbs amputated due to complications. Please don't tell Mrs. Ginsburg that she's going to lose a leg because she missed an appointment. That information is just there for you. But feel free to mention some of the things that Dr. Miller would be looking for in a diabetic patient, such as dry cracks in the skin or fungal toenails or open sores on the feet. Those sorts of things are some big warning signs for some much bigger complications. You want to mention the office policy for no call, no show, and also the reasons why a patient should call to reschedule. So the reason why they should call to reschedule is pretty obvious. She's diabetic and she needs to really have a screening appointment done. As far as the office policy, I let you kind of choose what you want to do here. Some offices have a $50 fee for no call, no show. And if you want to charge Mrs. Ginsburg that fee, that's fine with me. Other students approach it a little bit differently and say, well, you know, this was the first time she missed an appointment. We're not going to charge the fee. You'll see some samples of missed appointment letters. Those are located in your Written Correspondence Project folder. You can get some ideas there about the fees. They're mentioned in the sample letters. You want to close that letter by asking Mrs. Ginsburg to call Dr. Miller's office to reschedule her appointment as soon as possible. Keep this in mind, though. Mrs. Ginsburg may have some dementia or some memory loss issues going on here. Maybe she didn't even remember that a reminder call was made to her. So sometimes I've had students really take ownership of this project and come up with some really creative ways to end the letter, meaning they have offered senior services transportation to get her to appointments at the designated day and time. I've even had students offer to do reminder phone calls for a family friend, a neighbor, or a family member to make sure that another person knows that there's an appointment going on. So all kinds of creative ways that you can choose to end the letter. And please take a look at the sample letters on Blackboard or also on your USB stick. Remember, they are located inside your Written Correspondence Project folder. Have fun with this letter. It is one of my favorite ones to do and relatively easy to get done. Good luck.